So today is the day. This is the day that the Senate Banking Committee is sitting down with this document, debating it, amending it, shaping it, and deciding on which version moves forward into law finally. So that means that this is not some random PDF floating around on the internet, and this is the working document, right? So this is the version that they're going to be putting directly on the table this afternoon and running through. And I want everyone that's watching to understand the timing right now. Trump is in China as we speak. World leaders are moving. China is positioning. Russia and Putin are part of the next geopolitical chessboard. Trust me. The entire world is moving around the trade, energy, settlements, sanctions, artificial intelligence, digital currency, and of course, the future of money. And on the exact same day in the United States, this markup is happening. Don't miss the story here. I'm not saying President Xi and Putin are sitting around the table talking about your XRP bag. That's not what I'm saying at all. So what I am saying is the world is fighting over the monetary rails of the future. So who's going to control settlement? Who controls cross-border value? Who's going to control liquidity? Who controls digital money, and who controls the future of payments? And when you understand this, you'll understand why this document matters so much, because there's two roads here. Okay, very important to understand. One road is CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, programmable money, permissioned money, surveillance money, right? The version that governments and central banks sit directly on top of your financial life forever. Then there's the other road. This is open blockchain networks, utility assets, private sector innovation, self-custody, digital commodities, stablecoin rails, XRP style settlements, and real market structure, decentralization. That's the fork in the road right now. And this document right here, let's look at it. On page 1, they're trying to show you which road that they're taking. So let's look at this. Paragraph number 1, the CBDC kill shot. They don't bury this on page 232. They don't hide it in a footnote. They come out swinging immediately. This markup says the bill is to provide regulation for digital commodities through the SEC and the CFTC. But watch this part. It amends Federal Reserve Act to prohibit Federal Reserve banks from offering certain products or services directly to an individual. And it prohibits the use of central bank digital currency for monetary policy and other purposes. How? That's the mic drop. That's the whole fight in one paragraph. This is why I've been saying that I ride with Trump's direction, especially on crypto. People can argue politics all day. I don't care at all. When it comes to crypto, CBDCs, and decentralization, enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Trump has been singing this exact song from the second he came through the doors. In his executive order, the White House policy was to protect open public blockchain networks, protect self-custody, and create regulatory clarity, and to take the measures necessary against CBDCs. The order was specifically said agencies will be prohibited to take action to establish or issue or promote CBDCs except when required by law. So that's not small. That is the direction. And now today, in this markup, you see the same direction showing up in legislation text. That's why this matters, everyone. Because if CBDCs take the stage, it's game over. For the same reason that a lot of us came to the whole market in the first place. If they lock the entire digital monetary system into the central bank rails, then decentralization and utility assets get squeezed. Self-custody gets squeezed. Open networks get squeezed. And innovation gets permissioned. Your money becomes code they control. And look around the world. The CBDC race is not imaginary. This is not folklore. The Atlantic Council tracker says that every G20 country, except for the United States, remember that, is exploring a CBDC. So with many in advanced stages or even like pilots that are existed today. So when I see this markup opening by attacking CBDCs, I'm telling you straight now, it's not fluff. That's in the foundation. And for XRP holders, utility coin holders, and basically anyone paying attention to the future of the financial rails, then this is a massive signal, period. There's no other way to look at it. Now let's talk about timing. So because, this is where the story gets really wild. Today, the bill is being marked up at the Senate. Today, Trump is in Beijing with President Xi. The White House live page shows Trump's in China's trip and the bilateral meeting with China on May 14th, today. There's also reports that says that they're watching a Putin-China follow-up right after Trump's China trip, which would put the US, China, and Russia into the same strategic window. Now, SCMP reported that Putin was expected to visit China, shortly after today's trip with President Xi. So that debate's finalizing at the same time. Again, I'm not saying that this document's secretly about one coin. I am saying that the world is shifting. Trade rails, energy rails, dollar rails, sanction rails, stablecoin rails, CBDC rails, commodity rails, and settlement. That's the battlefield. So when the US is marking up the digital asset market structure on the same day that global diplomacy is moving around China, Russia, Putin, Trump, Xi, trade, and settlement, I'm sorry, that timing is nothing that I'm going to ignore. Utility projects are sitting right in the middle of this right now. Not meme coins, not Bitcoin, not any garbage, not casino nonsense. Utility assets that can move value. Assets that can settle. Assets that can bridge, right? Assets that can be used in the real financial infrastructure. That's why I'm here. And for XRP holders, that's why this is so important. Because if XRP's whole story has been always about settlement, liquidity, speed, bridge value, and global rails, now let's get into the actual meat of this document and how it connects. So let's go to page 22. Now here's the first big XRP holder nugget in this bill. The bill's trying to separate the token from the fundraising transaction. Now that is everything, everybody. Because for years, the SEC's game has basically been, if there is an investment contract anywhere in the history of a token, then they could want to cloud that asset, or they would cloud that asset forever. And XRP holders know that nightmare better than anybody. But this bill still starts drawing the line, and that's what we're looking at. Look at the network token language here. This is where they start saying a network token can be treated as a non-security if it fits one of the frameworks. And then the big one, the secondary market treatment. Now, this is the oxygen. Most XRP holders are not Ripple. Most or all XRP holders did not negotiate a fundraising contract. Most XRP holders bought and held the asset because the market, because they believed in it. They believed in its utility, liquidity, settlement, and the overall project. So when this bill says a secondary market treatment matters, and when it starts treating network tokens and offers and sales differently from security offerings, then that's massive. This is the architecture that XRP holders have been waiting for since day one. Not because the bill has, written XRP inside of the bill with flashing lights, because it doesn't, right? What matters is the framework, and everybody's got to, understand this. The framework says maybe the early sale is one thing, maybe the disclosures are another thing, but maybe the issuer conduct is one other thing as well. But the token itself on a functioning network in secondary markets is not automatically a security forever. And that's the red carpet. So that's the biggest regulatory cloud XRP holders have ever lived under and still live under. And the document is trying to break that cloud apart. Now, does that mean price goes straight up tomorrow? No. Don't get all excited. It doesn't turn into fake certainty, but structurally, this is the kind of language that we wanted to see, and especially if you hold utility assets. So now let's go over to Tim Scott's section by section document. And we're going to take a peek at this document for a second, because these are the cold notes, right? This is the version that tells you what they want the public and they want lawmakers to understand in the bill. So right here in section 102, it says ancillary assets and network tokens whose value may depend on entrepreneurial or managerial efforts. Okay. It requires disclosures for certain transactions, but the key part here is it treats tokens themselves as commodity, right? And that's huge. Then let's go down to section 103, and it creates what they call regulation crypto. So this is basically a fundraising lane. A company can raise a greater of 50 million per year in one calendar year for up to 4 years, or 10% of the total dollar value of outstanding ancillary assets. So with a cap of 200 million in gross proceedings under regulation crypto. So there's a cap of 200 million, 4 years. Now, why does that matter? Because this creates a legal path forward instead of forcing every project into that regulatory trap. Right? This is how you stop regulation by lawsuit. You give those projects a lane. So let's just say disclose the following rules. Don't hide the material and information. Don't dump on retail. And don't pretend you're decentralized if you're truly not. But if you're building real infrastructure, there's now a path. That's how utility projects survive and prosper in the United States. And that's why this matters so much for XRP holders, even if XRP itself is not using the fundraising lane anymore, because this whole market needs legal rails. And I can't express that enough. You can't have an institutional adoption when nobody knows what the rules are, period. And this is why the price is static today. So now let's go to page 2 and let's blow this section up. So 104, insider resales over 12 months to reduce market manipulation or insider trading and prevent insiders from flooding or dumping assets into the market. Now, this section I want everybody to pay attention to, because people will ask, where does this bill actually stop market manipulation? Well, let's look at that. Here's one piece that does. So section 104, special disposition restrictions by related persons. So related persons is the big thing. In plain English, this is about insiders, founders, control people, related people, people with privileged positions, people who could dump into retail while everybody else is still trying to understand what the hell is going on, right? And look at what the summary says. These restrictions are designed to reduce the risk of market manipulation or insider trading. Wow. And they didn't, say that in the quiet part. They said it out loud. They are trying to stop directly insiders from flooding the market, dumping with their ancillary assets, because that can artificially lower the price. Boom. That is the real nugget, because this market has been abused for years by insiders, market makers, fake decentralization, foundations, unlock schedules, sweetheart backdoor deals, and liquidity games that retail only finds out after the chart gets nuked. And we're wrecked. So when this bill starts limiting related people, resales, and talking about dumping, insider trading, and manipulation, that's something that retail should absolutely pay attention. And that's why I wanted to bring this to you. But now watch this, because there's two sides of the coin. So we're going to go to the main document here, because there's another market manipulation section that matters even more. And now here's the second piece, section 308 in the main document. Risk management standards for digital asset intermediaries. This is where the bill talks about intermediaries routing or executing trades through DeFi trading protocols. And look at the language. They have to use conduct risk analysis that includes fraud and market manipulation. So they have to maintain a risk-based capability to detect market manipulation, fraud, money laundering, sanctions, and evasion. And they have to implement procedures, this is huge, that execute, reject, suspend transaction where there is suspected risk of money laundering, sanction evasion, fraud, or market manipulation. I can't express how big of a deal this is. This is where the bill says you cannot just build a trading doorway. You can't connect to DeFi or route orders, take fees, or pretend that you have no responsibility when manipulation is happening straight in our face, right straight through the pipe. Now for retail, this can be a protection, but I'm also going to say this is a big but, because they are also can be a control point here. And I want to point this out, because anytime a bill says that an intermediary can reject or suspend transaction based on suspected risk, well, you better ask the next question. Who defines suspected? So what is the standard here? Can it be abused? Can it be weaponized? Can it become another way to choke users while giving the institutions a clean access road to success? So that's why I'm raising the flag, and that's why you have to watch rulemaking. The concept is good. Stop fraud, stop manipulation, stop dirty flows. But now there's a danger, and there always will be, that into the implementation of this. So retail, you need to protect from manipulation, but we also need protection from, overreach. So this is something that I just wanted to bring both sides of the coin for your own knowledge, so you can keep your eyes open. This is why this becomes one of the most important sections in the whole document. So you might want to circle this in red, page 184, section 308. Now we hit the section where the banks got their pound of flesh. Section 404, prohibiting interest on yield and payment stable coins. So this is one of the most important bank protection sections in the entire markup. And I want to make this simple. They're not banning every crypto award, period. They are targeting passive, deposit-like stablecoin yields. Why? Simple. Because if the bank, the bank saw the writing on the wall. If people can hold digital dollars outside the banking system and earn yield, then their deposits and their interest are garbage. So what's going to happen? They're going to walk. banks lose the funding power. So what did they do? They pushed to shut down stablecoin yields that looks like bank deposit interest. So the bill says no covered party can directly or indirectly pay any form of interest or yield to a U.S. customer solely for holding payment stablecoins or in a way that's economically or functionally equivalent to interest on a bank deposit. Now that phrase is definitely the future battleground. Economically or functionally equivalent, that's the phrase regulators are going to take for however they want to interpret it. Now, here's the part people need to understand. The bill does allow for a bona fide activity-based or transaction-based reward. So that means that things tied to actual use, payment, transfer, remittance, what else is conversion, settlement, liquidity, market making, collateral, governance, validation, staking, loyalty programs, promotional programs, as long as it's not a fake bank interest yield wearing a costume, basically, is still permitted. So there's a win for us. So don't let people lie to you and tell you that all rewards are banned. It's false. But don't let people tell you that the banks didn't win, because they did. This is the bank carve out. It's dressed up as a stability and a consumer protection. And there is a little bit of that, but this is just about protecting the bank deposits and their power. So for XRP holders, the takeaway is stablecoins are dollar rails, XRP settlement and liquidity rails. So this bill it defines the lanes, and that's what we needed. The banks want to protect deposits, and the crypto industry wants rewards and adoption. Regulators want AML and fraud controls, and utility assets need legal certainty so institutions can actually use them. This is the war inside this section. Now let's go back to the section by section document by Tim Scott, the PDF, page 6, section 401. Now watch this move. Responsible banking innovation. This is where traditional finance gets invited to the party, by the way. The summary says banks and institutional holding companies, state banks, national banks, and certain credit unions can use digital assets and blockchain technology for things that they are already allowed to do. Payments, lending, custody, and trading. And that's not small. This is the institutional on-ramp. Now, some people are going to hate this. I understand. I get it. You're going to say, I thought crypto was supposed to replace the bank rails in the traditional finance, level. But here's the reality. If XRP and utility assets are going to scale to any serious settlement, liquidity, or financial infrastructure, or regulated institutions need to know what they can and cannot touch. They need to know custody rules. They need to know asset classifications. They need compliance rules. They need the CFTC and the SEC lanes, period. They'll need bankruptcy treatment. They need permission from the system that they live inside. So the section gives them a path. But again, watch the balance. When the banks get a clean road and small innovators get a compliance burden, that's where the squeeze can happen. So yes, this can be bullish for adoption, but it also means that the big boys, the banks, they're coming with their licenses, lawyers, lobbyists, and balance sheets to these meetings. So retail better stay awake here and watch closely today. So let's look at page 274, section 605. Now this section's for every crypto holder and what they should care about. Keep Your Coins Act. So this says a federal agency may not prohibit, restrict, or otherwise impair a user's ability to self-custody digital assets using a self-hosted wallet for lawful purposes. So that is massive, because if self-custody is not a side issue, self-custody is the difference between you owning an asset and holding an IOU from a crypto exchange. This is the heartbeat of crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. So that's not just a meme. That was a warning. And the world where CBDCs are being explored globally, where exchanges can freeze, where platforms can collapse, where banks can deplatform, this language truly matters. And this is a great day to see this inside this document. Now, let's go to page 270 and 272 in the main document. Now there's page 270 to 272, Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, or you can use the section by section, page 8. So let's just take a peek at it. But what they're treating it as money transmitters if they don't have a unilateral control over users' asset. And right before that, they have developer protections. The bill protects non-controlling blockchain developers and service providers from being treated like money transmitters when they don't actually have unilateral control over what? The user's assets. That matters because code is not custody. Writing software is not the same thing as taking control of customer funds. If they get this wrong, they kill DeFi and open source development. This is the developer's night. But if they get it right, developers can finally build without constantly wondering if by pushing code, it turns them into to a financial institution overnight. So this one is another huge one. Keep your eye on. Now, go to page 276 or 277, or both of them, or the section by section, page 9, protecting consumer property. So this is a post FTX language. And if the platform goes down, what happens to your digital commodities and your assets? Are they your property, or they're just another creditor at that point standing in line? The bill moves towards treating assets and digital commodities as customer property in the case of a bankruptcy. And that's huge for market maturity. Again, not a replacement for self-custody. Self-custody is still king, but legal recognition of customer property matters if the market's going to, head towards the institutions. So the final section by section. Now I want to end this by showing you Chairman Tim Scott's section by section summary, because it is the cheat sheet. This is the public facing map. If you pay attention to section 102, network tokens and disclosures. Tokens treated as commodity. That's the main takeaway. Look at section 103. Regulation crypto. A legal fundraising lane is now focused. Section 104. Related person restrictions. This is the insider dumping and market manipulation protection. Section 105. Network token characteristics. And this is important. The summary says the SEC cannot determine a digital asset is a security if, before enactment, a U.S. court determined in a non-appeal judgment that the digital asset was not a security. That's the section that XRP holders are going to, be staring at very hard. And section 308, risk management standards, fraud, manipulation, anti-money laundering, sanctions, and suspicious transaction control. Section 404, stablecoin yields. Bank won the passive yield fight for this time, but activity-based rewards still have a lane. 605, keep your coins. Self-custody protection. And section 902, SEC and CFTC coordination. The SEC keeps anti-fraud and anti-manipulation authority, right? CFTC keeps market integrity authority over commodity markets. And then right here at the end, section 905, rulemaking and effective date. So this is important. Even if this passes, everything doesn't magically switch on instantly, right? So today is the markup, but today's not the finish line. Today is one of the biggest steps forward in history that we've ever seen. And here's the bottom line for XRP holders. This bill does not guarantee price. It does not mean that every problem disappears overnight. And it doesn't mean that the banks are your friend by any means. But it does move towards the United States having a framework where digital commodities, network tokens, secondary markets, self-custody, developers, customer property, DeFi, and institutional digital asset activity can exist under one clear set of rules. And that is exactly what utility assets have needed from day one. XRP doesn't need fairy tales, everyone. It needs clarity. This is why Brad Garlinghouse continues to harp that they need clarity. It needs institutions to know what lane they're in. It needs exchanges to know what they can list. It needs banks to know what they can custody. So if they also need regulators to stop pretending that every secondary market token trade is automatically a security transaction. And it needs the United States to choose an open digital asset rails over CBDCs. This is why this document matters so much. And why does today matter? Because Trump is in China. Putin's circling the China story right now. The world is moving on CBDCs and they're being pushed globally. Stablecoins are being regulated. Banks are being given lanes and utility projects are waiting for legal oxygen. And this is the markup. And this is why this timing is so important. So yeah, I'm fired up because if you're holding XRP or any real utility asset, then this is one of the most important moments where these rails are actually being built in public. So not hype without receipts, not guessing, not no screenshots. No, official documents, official markup, and official timing. So read the documents yourself, watch for the amendments, and watch what changes happen today. And remember one sentence, a bill like this can change the entire game forever. Peace out.